DeFi Space Donkeys, powered by Weed on Solana. Get yourself a bag of weed. Happy Friday. It is Higher Intelligence with the usual crew. We got Genius Podhead, Crypto Stoner, Rick Starr, and we're joined today by Iriana. So good to see you. I'm glad you're all in the house. Let's give this a share, tag some friends, and pull up a chair. Get right into it. Back
There
to you,
you go.
Welcome. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, everybody. Happy 420. I'm excited for today's show because Bitcoin is pumping to new all-time highs. And, we had a meeting earlier the week and we were talking about, all right, we were doing show prep and what are we going to talk about this week? And all that just went completely out the window. And now we're just going to talk about Bitcoin and what's happening in the Bitcoin ecosystem and kind of where we go from here. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. Crypto Stoner, how are you? I love the shirt, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Had to bring out the colors, the rainbow neon today.
Love it.
Doing good. It's been, like you said, it's been a very wild week in the market. I've been doing a lot of TA this week because the market's been more on fire. A lot of people have been asking why we're pumping, how we're pumping, what was the reason, what was the catalyst for it. So we'll get into it through the live here today. But there's a lot going on. For people that are trading, I'm telling everyone, make sure those stop losses are close. There could be swings, volatile swings, but ultimately, the Bitcoin adoption in the sense of how much we've seen added to the market in the last 72 hours. Just the crypto market in total alone, I think it's gone up like 5%. Which is now we're at $3.6 trillion. 4.7% has been added to the entire crypto market. Bitcoin was at 67% dominance when it was pumping this week. So we are seeing, Bitcoin look like it wants to get ready for that next price discovery range, where we'll see a lot of, FOMO, a lot of euphoria kind of thing. But that won't be, I don't think, in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I think we're kind of setting and testing barriers above right now, but that we may have consolidation and profit taking come in, which would lead us into probably a bigger dip, or maybe we have some bad news with tariffs, like the 35% added to Canada today, which we'll talk about. But all of that is tying into why we may see a sell-off leading back into a recovery to whatever all-time highs we're seeing now, which, congratulations to everyone that's believed in Bitcoin since the beginning. We're now at 118,000 as an all-time high, which is just awesome to see that after all these years, for me being in it for 4 cycles and just really being here for all of this, it's awesome to see that, we're still seeing an increasing adoption on it. And so, yeah, it's an awesome week.
Nice. Yeah, I love it. Rick, how you doing, bud?
Good, bro. I've just got a moaning dog here that I'm trying to caress.
I can hear her.
Yeah, this is cuddle time.
This is cuddle time? Is that what you said?
She wants some cuddles.
She wants to be on camera, man.
Come on, be on camera.
She just wants to be on your lap like last week.
You want to speak, you might as well be on the camera too.
Yeah, seriously, get her on camera.
What's this? What's this? Yeah.
We got to get her like a little buddy costume with like the arms and stuff like that.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
By the way, Rick, every time I eat gummy bears now, I think about the fact that you separate all of your gummy bears before you eat them. That just cracks me up still.
Sounds like busy work.
Arena, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm great. Like everybody in the space celebrating. And I was just on Twitter Spaces. What was it? Like the day before, actually a couple of hours before Bitcoin shoot to the new all-time high, saying that I feel my impression is that it's still undervalued. We're still in that kind of waiting for it to really break through, and say gut feeling says that we should be right now already in 120 and should be heading to 150 with all the news and all the adoption and all the policies and regulations that are positively influencing Bitcoin in particular and the crypto space in general.
Mhm.
So there were many debates whether the bull market will start now in the summer, was supposed to begin in April. I was a talk in 2049. There was a lot of, expectations building up. It did not happen, even though the market kind of did go up a little bit. Then the second guess was okay, maybe in June, let's wait. Now we're in July. Things are moving. And then the third hypothesis is that we will see an altcoin bull run finally now in the fall around September, October time. And another interesting conversation we were having on the spaces recently was around, Trump and tariffs and the the impact, factual and emotional. And
Right.
my opinion is that we are, like a lot of investors, a lot of business leaders, um, retail, everybody's already completely fed up of all of these news. Nobody believes whatever comes out. So it's like
Mhm.
before, everyone was on alert mode, waiting. Okay, what's the news? What is happening with inflation? What is the Fed saying? Where is the market? Where are the tariffs? Now everybody's like, okay, you know what? Let's just do our thing. Like, let's invest where we were planning to. Let's push forward what should be pushed forward. And my just sort of emotional sentiment of the market is that, you know, let's go. That's enough. Let's ignore the politics completely.
Mhm.
Let's not hope anymore, and let's put our expectations into specific promises by politicians. It's time to act, and it's time to build, and it's time to just move on. Really.
Yeah, I like what you said there about the difference between factual and emotional reactions. And I think with anything, especially with crypto, there are a lot of emotional reactions rather than just focusing on the factual reactions or what's going on in the macro environment. Um, and you mentioned the Fed, and it's interesting that today Jerome Powell is talking about resigning. Do you guys think that is going to have any sort of effect on crypto in general, but Bitcoin specifically, positive or negative, or is it going to just be business as usual, like Irina just said, where we kind of ignore that because we're so fed up with that outside noise, and that Bitcoin just does what Bitcoin does?
Yeah, I think that we actually talked about this a couple months ago when Trump first said, he was calling for Powell to resign, about how it's never necessarily good for markets when there is a seat change of that
Right.
sense in the past. Now it's a little bit different, in my opinion, this run, and this ecosystem that we're in, and this economy is. I think that. I think that people aren't going to fall for that as much. And so what we're seeing is that resilience side where people aren't, you know, they don't care what they're doing anymore with the money. In a lot of senses, people are sick of. We're starting to catch on of how much manipulation had really been going on in the markets, and so I think that's where a lot of the resilience is that we see now, where people aren't selling. They're also not FOMOing in per se. If you do some research on all these like candles from yesterday on a chart of Bitcoin, there's a lot of very large wallets making very large purchases around the same time, which was then liquidating a lot of the people that were betting for it to go down.
Right.
So that's where a lot of money moves went yesterday. But at the same time, it was only a few wallets really causing a lot of that massive pump. And so, just with all of the Powell stuff, we saw what happened when Gensler was resigning. we actually did see a positive move in the markets when he resigned. So maybe this is partially because people have been being told through the mainstream media sources for a while now that Powell is holding us back. He should have cut rates. He should have done, they've been really building that and saying it a lot in
Right.
TradFi. So with that, maybe this ends up being a catalyst for whoever comes in is crypto friendly, as Bitcoin positive, and really also has that view. Imagine if we get a Fed chairman or chairwoman, either one, that ends up being a Bitcoin maxi or a Bitcoin pro asset reserve, things like that. That could swing the entire adoption rate. And, we've been talking about mass adoption could be coming. So whatever all these moves and then the puzzles moving together that we don't get to see as normal people, they're still happening. And so they're laying a lot of things out of people that are going to be in that Bitcoin or that future economy outlook or economic foundations that we're building now. So yeah, I think it's going to end up being probably more bullish.
I think crypto is just generally anti-establishment. So like, is this an anti-establishment move? Yes. So it will be bullish for crypto. We see that like all the time. Like, essentially, we are all kind of anti-establishment. If you're in crypto, most of us are anti-establishment. So when you see something like a big figurehead like Jerome Powell like getting taken out, it's bullish for you as a person who likes to be against the establishment, because it's like going against TradFi almost in a way. Um, and
Yeah.
and the hope of that hope of change, that speculation of change, I think is always going to pump the price. That's just how
Yes.
it is.
Yeah, crypto. You mentioned the liquidations yesterday. 415 million worth of Bitcoin shorts liquidated at whatever on yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. So it's interesting, the anti-establishment reference, but then you have BlackRock, which owns, I don't know, 700,000 Bitcoin, more than 3% of supply. You have MicroStrategy, which owns close to that, not quite. I think they're above 600 right now. So again, right around 3% of supply. So how do you guys feel when you talk about, and Arena, definitely jump in here because I know you're big on decentralization. When you talk about anti-establishment and decentralization, especially as it relates to Bitcoin, but BlackRock, which basically controls the world, owns more than 3% of the supply of Bitcoin, and MicroStrategy owns 3% of the supply. Can those two things exist in the same world, or do you see BlackRock and MicroStrategy as bad, bad for Bitcoin, bad for crypto, and bad for where this industry is supposed to be from an anti-establishment decentralization point of view?
Well, I definitely agree with the thesis that Bitcoin was a movement of decentralization and conventional financial system. And initially, there was a lot of retail. And our win is when we have as many hands as possible on the Bitcoin, because then it becomes truly decentralized and we're truly empowering individuals and we're truly promoting that economic freedom and financial freedom for everyone. And of course, BlackRock spotted the opportunity. A lot of large funds still try to shake out the retail and curse Bitcoin. For many years we've been hearing it's bad, it's a scam, it's I don't know, whatever illegal activities happening on that chain. So a lot of that propaganda to just scare people away, at the same time put the price down and to get as much stake as possible. And I always say, and I always tweet a lot about it, people, please learn this is your financial freedom, and it can only work if everybody in this world, if 8 billion individuals get their hands on Bitcoin. The same about Ethereum and the internet, because effectively now Ethereum is the internet. Like it or not, but you have Ethereum, then you have a lot of L2s, you have Polygon, Avalanche, you name it, all of the other layers that are here to scale Ethereum to make it affordable, accessible, fast, functional, etc. But the layer of the internet where the smart contracts are, where all the most important applications are, and where the most valuable assets are locked, are all on Ethereum. So if you don't own Ethereum, again, you're making probably a very big mistake, and also you're not helping this space to grow and consolidate and become truly democratic and truly what it meant to be from the cypherpunk perspective, from the privacy perspective, and from giving power to you. So I always say, watch where BlackRock's hands are, watch their moves, because that is probably what they're after. And the more they scare and the more they inject FUD and FOMO, the more it means the interest is higher. And going back to our conversation about emotions and logics, if we were living in a logical world, we would probably be in a very different situation. But the world is emotional, and humans are emotional, and most of our decisions are emotion driven. Otherwise, marketing wouldn't exist. Otherwise, sales wouldn't exist. So it's really a very highly unpredictable life and world, because we are very emotional.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned to pay attention to what BlackRock is doing rather than what they're saying. This was a post from Arkham yesterday morning. BlackRock has just bought 158 million ETH while only buying 125 million BTC. Now, granted, BTC also was hitting all-time highs yesterday, so maybe that's something to do with it. While ETH is still down, 35% off their all-time high. I think their all-time high was around 4,600, and obviously right now it's around 3. It's to see an event like this happening. Arena, when you're on that space the other day, the Mario space I was listening to, Yago mentioned that there are investment opportunities per generation, and the analogy that he used, I thought it was very very appropriate. He said that our grandparents, when their generational investment opportunity was to get a college degree, and I'm trying to stop sharing my screen here without shutting down the switch, was to get a college degree in the 40s and 50s. And if you had a college degree, then you were light years ahead of everybody else, right? And in the 60s and 70s and 80s, the generational wealth investment opportunity was to buy a house. And if you bought a house then, and you held on to it for 20, 30 years, and you were a millionaire. The generational investment opportunity now, and for everybody, I think has to be Bitcoin, right? We've seen how much Bitcoin has appreciated in 10 years. But if you look at the price of a house 10 years ago, the average price of the house might have been like 150,000, right? I don't even know what the price of Bitcoin was 10 years ago. I think it was under 1,000. But you look at the price of a house now, right? And the average price of a house now is, I think, 450,000, the median price of the house. But Bitcoin is now at 118,000. So when you start to think of things from the perspective of their value according to Bitcoin, it kind of changes how you look at the world, right? Rather than looking at, a car costs 50,000 or 100,000, you could say a car costs half a Bitcoin or a full Bitcoin. And what is that car going to cost in US dollars 5 years from now versus what is that car going to cost in Bitcoin 5 years from now? So let's say I have a Rivian. I'm leasing a Rivian. It's $100,000 today. In 5 years, that's going to be 125,000. But that Rivian today is 1 Bitcoin. In 5 years, is it going to be 0.85 Bitcoin, 0.9 Bitcoin? You know what I'm saying, right? So those two things start to diverge as the cost goes up in US dollars, but the Bitcoin appreciates, and so therefore the cost, goes down. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Am I explaining it correctly?
If I can jump in, because what it is Bitcoin is that hedge against inflation, and because fiat is a hyperinflated economy ecosystem, and inflation is a falling knife that we can't catch. What you're saying is right, but Bitcoin is the only asset that is outpacing the rate of inflation.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right in the sense that if you're accumulating and holding Bitcoin long term, and that is your goal, is just keep accumulating, that your price of that year car is going, your appreciation in your Bitcoin holdings will outgrow that, and you actually will, that car will be cheaper and cheaper the longer you accrue more and more Bitcoin.
Right.
And that's what I teach people with advising and consulting too, is, being able to take your business and then take some of your net profit and invest that into your own kind of Bitcoin reserve and creating a portfolio for yourself as a company. You actually build yourself a savings treasury for your real world business
Right.
that also hedges against inflation, so that when you need to get a loan or you need to do something, you're not paying as much. And if you put that against the Bitcoin your company has in its treasury, and you take a loan from an investor, you can pay that investor back while the accruement of Bitcoin is coming in, and you actually pay less money. So exactly what you're saying in that sense of, it'll be 0.8, 0.7, 0.6 Bitcoin for a car the longer that time goes on that you're holding your Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah, and there's this browser extension called Opportunity Cost, and I'm going to try to share my screen.
Fun fact: 10 years ago, Bitcoin was $280.
There you go, $280.
Damn.
And today it's 118,000. But I thought this was kind of interesting. Opportunity cost, to see the true cost of everything in Bitcoin. I just heard about it today. But rather than looking at how much a house costs, 439,000 in US dollars, it gives you the perspective of how much it costs in BTC. And just echoing what Crypto Stoner just said, this dollar value is going to go up, while this Bitcoin value or number is going to go down. Right? This house is in 10 years is going to be 539,000, while in 10 years the Bitcoin is going to be 3.4 BTC. So it's, I don't know, again, just an interesting way to look at things and kind of get a different perspective on it. And rather than valuing everything in US dollars, starting to value everything in more of a sound currency. It's interesting times. The old saying, "Sell in May, go away," and yet we're hitting all-time highs in July. Rick, where do you think we go from here? Friday, July 11th. Are we going to see a major sell-off and drop down into the 90s? Are we going to continue to rally until back to school season and then Q4? Where do you think we kind of end up on Monday or next week?
I just think this is a typical weekend pump. I think that Sunday evening it cools down a little bit. We keep going sideways for longer. I think the sideways action isn't over. I've maintained for so long that it's Q4 that we're going to see that big boom happen. We see it all the time. People have a lot more disposable income, especially around December, with like an extra check, that they receive from the company. This isn't everyone, but I'm saying a lot of people do kind of get that. So I think Q4. I think that we keep going sideways until September, late September, and then I think October is when we see the big boom. Because let's face it, even if this is a pump, this isn't the big pump that we dream of.
Right.
I think that when people are back in their offices making financial decisions, especially because so many institutions are involved in Bitcoin now at the moment, I think that's when we're going to see some sort of shift. And then, also like using Bitcoin as a reserve, I think that's going to be a domino effect. That's something that I think is only just started. Once countries start really looking at this as a store of value, it's going to be a race, between different countries to see who can get because there isn't enough to go around, right? It's
Right.
not infinite supply. It's not like they're out there like finding new supply every day. So I think that honestly, I truly believe in my mind that Q4 we're going to see 180, 200K. I think that Solana will see also ungodly pump, Ethereum as well. Um, the thing that I keep wondering about those NFTs, it's something that I'm always wondering about. I'm always trying to fit in, like, where does, because it's a cycle, right? So it needs to cycle back around. And I'm like, where does that fit in? Because, after this Bitcoin pumps over, I think alt season will be primed. Then we have that alt season. And then what? Then do we go back into another NFT season? That would be crazy if it lined up like that to like next year, February, because that would be almost a mirror of 2022.
Okay.
Remember, like the end, like November, we saw like crazy action end of 21. And then it kind of cooled off a bit in December, January, February, and then March, April, May. It ran up again like crazy. And then that's when we hit that bear market. And like June, July of that
Right.
year, that's when we really had that drop off. So it would be crazy if the timing was similar in terms of like the calendar year, but you can never predict. I mean, look at like the Israel situation. Look how quickly that shit popped off, like literally overnight. We can never predict IRL events, and at the end of the day, IRL events do affect crypto. So it's hard to say exactly, but I just keep having this feeling that Q4 is just primed for 180, 200K territory. But I think for now we keep going sideways. I think, this is nice, these levels. And I think that we probably do keep finding higher highs, which we have been doing. If you look at it over like the last year, we keep finding higher highs. I mean, that's why we're sitting where we are right now. We found that strength over 100K, and it doesn't look like we can go back below that. It really doesn't, unless it's like it would have to be something very heavy for it to drop like below, because there's so much support at that line at the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
We saw one of the biggest short positions ever get annihilated, I think on Thursday. One of the biggest short positions ever, because people just can't believe this pump that's going on. And I think that there was so much manipulation for so long that maybe now they've cooled off with the manipulation and they're letting it run a bit. But who's to say they don't throw another span in the works and try to bring the price down again to get another entry? They can play this game for years. That's the thing we mustn't forget. It's not like they're in any type of rush.
yeah.
But man, it's an interesting time to be in crypto.
And the
It
bigger
is.
the bigger it gets, the harder it's going to be to manipulate. Obviously, but also you're totally right on the resistance here. We're seeing a lot of strong resistance between like the 105 to like 112, 114 range. Like that's getting to bust through that at this point would be kind of difficult. We could pull up
and
a
something
back.
I was gonna say, touch on that Irina said earlier too, is like about how when we were talking about BlackRock and MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor owning that percentage, that 3% and stuff like that, and the adoption rates. The other thing that we know that's going to happen too is other governments, other entities, other hedge funds around the globe. Part of that decentralized focus of Bitcoin adoption is that we will see a lot less volatility and things of that nature the more and more we see adoption of fiat dollars going into that ecosystem. Because at some point, in my opinion, we're going to be 10 trillion plus in Bitcoin's just market cap alone. If you look at the way that that the world global liquidity and economy is moving, and future of AI and everything, it's going to end up being a massively bigger market. And that means that, there's going to be other BlackRocks, other Michael Saylors, there's going to be other El Salvadors stacking massive amounts of Bitcoin. And so it'll be a lot harder for just BlackRock or MicroStrategy to do it. There'll be a lot of people really pushing back against each other on those buy and sells with those large funds, creating that more NASDAQ S&P market on movements, so.
Go ahead,
Go ahead, Nick.
No, I was just to say, I agree that we're going to see volatility, the peaks and the troughs start to slowly, decrease, because like you said, Crypto Stoner, the BlackRocks and the MicroStrategies of the world are trying to gobble up as much as they can.
Yeah.
Right. And I think people are going to be scared to sell Bitcoin. Quite honestly, I think there's going to be, a lot of trepidation to even sell anything related to Bitcoin, knowing that it is going to be a gold rush, knowing that you do have BlackRock and MicroStrategy, and I'm sure other companies are going to, Metaplanet and whoever else, that are going to try to gobble up as much as they can while it's still at 100K or 110 or 120K. Because just looking at this post here, the Bitcoin network produced 450 BTC daily, while ETFs bought up 10,000. Right, that shows you the demand for Bitcoin from these ETFs, and and from people. Right, is that they want to own this, or at least the corporations and the governments, they want to own this. So it's interesting how quickly the world view on Bitcoin changed within the last couple of years with this BlackRock ETF. Like Irina said, for the longest time, there was that propaganda that this was used for drugs, right? This was only for Silk Road, drug dealers and murderers and all that.
They weren't wrong, but they weren't right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. We're wrong, we're right. But now we see BlackRock, the biggest how do I try to say right now, the biggest assets under management has more than 3% of the Bitcoin supply. So it's interesting times, and how quickly they change. Go ahead, Rick.
And back what Crypto Stoner was saying, the fiat money coming into this right now is really what is just propelling everything forward. We now are the US Bitcoin ETFs, the spot ETFs that is now the largest holder of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Our US spot ETFs. 1.1 million BTC is locked up in those spot ETFs right now.
And BlackRock has over half of it, right? Over the spot ETFs. I believe they're just north of 50%.
Yeah, and they also, something just for our listeners, because we talk a lot about, decentralization, and we like our money, we like our reserve or our asset being held by us. So something I always remind people when we talk about the ETF world is, remember, ETFs are not you owning Bitcoin either. As much as that's good for our markets and everything we're doing, in the belief that a lot of us have in having that buying power and having that control over our asset, have that Coinbase or a Binance or a wallet and hold your Bitcoin, have a wallet, those kind of things. Because as much as the ETFs are great for earning money in a traditional finance standpoint, technically you still don't own that Bitcoin physically, because BlackRock is the one housing it. So I always like to add that.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day, and that was kind of a light bulb moment for me. And that, if I go and I get BlackRock on 118,000 right now to put in the Bitcoin ETF, they go and buy the Bitcoin. I don't own it. I just own the ETF. And when I want to sell that ETF, they're going to give me cash back. They're not going to hand over a Bitcoin, right? And they don't have to sell the Bitcoin. Like when I sell my ETF, they don't have to sell their Bitcoin. They can just give me cash from all the fees that they paid on buying the Bitcoin or the Bitcoin ETF. So that was kind of an interesting, for me, it was a very interesting kind of aha moment as a way for BlackRock to accumulate Bitcoin using other people's money, and then obviously they're making money from the ETF, and then when somebody wants to cash out, they just they just cash them out with the fees that they made on that ETF. So
Yeah, they'll give you
definitely a good point, good perspective to look at.
they'll give you the fiat or even take a loan out against their Bitcoin to pay you.
Yeah.
They're not going to get. They're holding on to that Bitcoin. They're diamond handing that stuff.
Yeah, honestly, when you cash out, they're buying more Bitcoin.
Yeah,
with that cash out, that is exactly what they do. So go ahead,
Rick. Talk us through this.
Yeah, no, this was just something that I thought might be interesting to share. Yesterday was the highest daily short liquidation in 4 years. 2.4 billion in shorts, absolutely demolished yesterday as Bitcoin surged past 118. And you know, today I guess there were probably a lot more shorts that got demolished when people probably thought, okay, that's the top now, we're going to pull back.
What was it yesterday? 116 or 1?
Yeah, it hit 118. This was yesterday. So today it's kind of like gone back up to that level, which is interesting to see. But I mean, you look over the 7 days, that's when you see some crazy gains with some of these coins. You know, a lot of them, like Ethereum especially, up 20%, Arbitrum up 30%, Optimism up 30%. That's on the 7 day. Cardano up 30%.
Why is Cardano up 30%?
RWAs, bro. And
you know what? Real quick on the Cardano, you know, it's up 30%, but I'm still down 78. Last run.
I love that. Well, that's kind of how I feel about Ethereum, because I mean, we go look at Ethereum and it looks pretty right now, yeah. Like obviously it looks amazing, but you know, you go to all time.
Yeah,
and
what, 46?
Doesn't actually look
Bought it at 5K. It doesn't look great right now. Yeah.
I mean, look, we've gone up to 4K earlier, like this year. So it's not like we like, and then like you look at this chart and then you compare it to this, which
right.
You see,
one of
now
these things is not like
there's
the
a
other.
massive difference in the charts there, you know. So and I've got a lot of optimism for an altcoin rally, but you just look at most of these altcoins and you look at like all-time high, and we're just nowhere near it. And maybe that's what the alt season will do. But I mean, you even look at Sol. That's looking a lot better. But let's look let's look at Cardano.
No, don't pull that one
is
up. It makes me sad. God.
There's what crypto's starting about.
I bought right near that top point because somebody actually messaged me and said, "Yo, you got to get in on this before it runs." It was one of the first times and last times I listened to someone that told me to go buy something. Right?
I mean, it's a 5x from here if it does hit an all-time high. So you know, if we do have that altcoin run, might be one of the biggest candidates to bank on in terms of upside. You know, like, do you see Bitcoin doing a 5x from here? Obviously, there's a lot more volatility with these other coins, but like a Bitcoin 5x from here would have to be like
600K.
It would have to be crazy. Whereas like these getting back to all-time highs, like a lot of these, I feel is possible. Maybe not all of them, but I do feel like there's a lot of candidates here for ones that could kind of just come back to life, you know, and just
even
push for that all-time high. So
even just the steady layer twos, like look how far they are the stair, like Polygon and stuff. Like look how far they are away from their all-time highs, you know. And if Ethereum is like obviously the industry standard, all those layer twos are going to see, I think, some pretty good action.
I think it's going to be a little bit different than what we've seen before. I think we're going to start to see more enterprise or corporation companies beginning to dabble into investing into layer ones, maybe some layer twos as well. But I'm a little bit different on that one. I think a lot of stuff obviously will do well, but it's going to be, what does Disney pick? What does Amazon pick?
Right.
What is, you know, who do they invest in first? And it's going to cut down a lot of who ends up growing as well. you know, in that sense. So we may see less projects. Go ahead.
That was right. Yeah, that kind of sort of resonates with the past cycle, because if you remember, Polygon was the one bringing big brands on chain like WWF, doing a lot of sustainability projects with corporates, BMW, Mercedes, Starbucks. So all of these big brands, they jumped in, they tapped into the metaverse, which was the big deal, all of these virtual worlds. And now there are some companies like Sandbox who continue growing, their user base is growing, and they just closed the partnership with Cirque du Soleil, which is the world's oldest brand, one of the oldest brands. And they did a big event in New York at Times Square with launch of characters in the game, etc. So these kind of things, they will again peak the headlines, but we will see more of the infrastructural things. I think, like brands launching, their own big platforms with a different angle, and we will see a lot of projects that are technically not feasible and did not prove themselves, and who had, this big discourses and big promises on partnerships like tokenizing Africa, onboarding everybody and buying on chain. Well, okay, 5 years later, have you done anything? Well, probably not. Then, goodbye. It's time for other serious companies, because there was a time of ICOs. There was a time when I would say 99% of the companies in crypto were there for a quick buck. And things are progressively improving because more and more serious people are coming in. More and more serious software development companies are coming in. They care about their reputation. They don't just come to, rug everybody and run away in the night. So the space is getting cleaner, more serious, more accountable, and it's beautiful.
I love.
So I'm very much looking forward to this new market of, like, let's get real world applications, real world impact on chain.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So along that point, when you look at what Robinhood announced, I can't remember if it was this week or last week, about tokenizing stocks and making them tradable 24/7. I think you're right that companies are going to pick chains. Companies are going to pick chains specifically for what they offer and for their access to their users, so users have access to. Just like companies pick software, just like companies pick cloud computing, right? I don't know who HBO uses for cloud computing. I don't know who, it's probably AWS, but I don't know who Disney Plus uses, right? I don't know who all these companies use for cloud computing, but it's back there, right? We don't see it, but it's there. We use the front end. We use Disney Plus. We use HBO Max. We use Netflix. We use Hulu, and I think we're going to start. I think that's analogous to what we're going to see from a blockchain perspective. We're going to see Amazon on the front end, but we're not going to know what blockchain is on the back end. We're going to see Walmart on the front end, but we're not going to know what blockchain is on the back end. And we might, some people might, and some people might care, but for the most part, we're not going to care. We're just going to use that platform, or we're just going to, transact with that company and not really care what blockchain is or what the NFT is, because it's just going to be our digital membership at that point. So the evolution of that within the next 3 to 5 years, I think is going to be analogous to the evolution of cloud computing and or cloud hosting and Netflix, Disney, Hulu, etc. What do you guys? I mean, what do you think about that?
Like Irina said too, you're going to start seeing actual building companies. Like you're going to see companies coming in and large, conglomerates that are building on, whether they build their own layer 2 attached to something or they are on a layer 1, whatever that may be. It's also going to lead into, we talked a little bit earlier this week about it, but NFTs as well. And Rick was talking about NFT cycles. NFTs are also going to be very different, because we are seeing real companies like secure IT security and things of that nature, which is my background, starting to look into and code NFTs to be able to be your security card, to be your access into things that's also tracked and logged on, on a blockchain so that can be seen. All of these things are going to start happening where we see NFTs be used by companies for their discounts. Starbucks might have an NFT on your phone, points. And that's how you get your points. And so with all of this innovation that's going to be coming in, a lot of the bad actors, the cabals are being pushed out. A lot of real money and real builders are coming in. And then we're also going to see the mainstream world retail stores start to adopt everything as we're building foundations, or the people that are building. And it's going to create that mass adoption when we do get to that full point of built out, looking solid, and really using these blockchain technologies in our in all of our systems.
Yeah, and there's rumors of GTA 6 coming out with blockchain integrations, and I think more and more companies are going to start thinking about how they can implement blockchain, how they can implement crypto, whether it's loyalty points, whether it's transactions, whether it's NFTs as certificates of authenticity, or whatever the case might be. I think companies have to start thinking about that, or they're going to be left behind, still doing things by hand on paper. Go ahead,
I think there's going to be like a break-even point at some place, but what's going to happen is a lot of the companies are going to come in and they're either going to latch on to a bigger chain, and that's when you'll know about the chain underlying their technology, because they're going to be using that network and that market to kind of propel their brand forward, right?
Yeah.
For marketing purposes. Or if they're big enough of a brand, they'll develop their own layer 1 or layer 2 solution, because they can then leverage their existing community to propel that forward. But it costs money to make a crypto. It costs money to maintain it. I think that a lot of people are just going to not want to go put the extra effort in unless they know it's a win, right? So like Disney could do it. A lot of the smaller mom and pop stores are going to want to, partner with Weed Token or something like that, right? So they can use that ecosystem.
I think a better analogy actually might be Zelle. I think everybody, Rick and Arena, I don't know if you guys use Zelle, but Zelle is a company that handles all the backend transactions for banks, right? So they have, it's like almost like a private little blockchain. Most people don't know who the company is behind Zelle, right? But it's something we use every day, and it's basically like a blockchain. And I think that's kind of what we're going to get to, is where we just use things and it's blockchain, and we don't realize it is, because it's just the software that's powering whatever the front end is, whether it's Dell or Amazon or what have you. Rick, let's talk about this, because this is funny. This is interesting.
Well, I mean, it's just another exactly what you're talking about. This is like, isn't this what mainstream adoption looks like? People using the blockchain to kind of do something, do something different. These are all on chain. These digital collectibles, and notice how people aren't using the word NFT anymore, but these are NFTs.
Right.
These are non-fungible tokens. So people might say here, but what if that said Snoop Dogg's NFTs? People would have a negative thing about it, but because it says digital collectibles, it's fun. And I think that gives me hope. That gives me like, okay, so, that was a stupid word to begin with, because no one knows what the fuck it means. We've spoken about this. So
nerds love it. Us nerds want to hear about the tech, but everyone else doesn't need to know the individual words.
Exactly. Like these guys don't care. They went on there, they used Apple Pay or whatever, and they bought themselves a Snoop Dogg sticker. That's...
Well, to be fair, Telegram is still kind of a Web 2 app, much more than it is a Web 3 app, because they are using tricks, because Apple Store doesn't really allow you crypto transactions. So they had to do a workaround to be able to be listed still in Apple Store, give users a seamless experience. and then give them the opportunity to convert whatever stars and gifts they have into an actual NFT. But I 100% agree that NFT has to just go away as a word, as a term. It was a hype moment for NFT back in 2021, 2022. Now it's actually firing back. I was at Art Dubai, talking to established artists and galleries, and they do not like the word because a lot of people associate it with the scam and the rug pull. The value of many NFT drops, just went below anybody's expectations. So artists don't want that association and give that negative sentiment to their collectors. Same thing applies for applications that are, giving consumer applications or digital media. I had a great conversation with Now Media, which is like one of the largest sort of NFT actually focused media, but they don't position themselves like that anymore. They stepped away from the word. They are talking about digital culture and building community based on a culture, not on a technology. So we're stepping into a completely different era where we won't probably even see anymore so many Web3 or NFT or whatever technology focused conferences, and it will be blended with, okay, there is a consumer conference, so there is a section of loyalty programs, gifts, etc.
I like that because also, with that, to take some of that stigma away, I think we're going to see large enterprise or corporations, companies, brands. I think they might use their own keywords for NFTs. They might all call them something different, or there may be a catchier phrase that comes out where it takes that. No one says NFT anymore because it has a bad connotation with it. So now everyone's using this word because Nike came up with a better word or term that people followed. So I think that might be something that ends up happening with NFTs, and people don't even know they're holding an NFT then.
Right. Yeah, I mean, something as simple as digital membership or digital collectible, that when you sign up for any new account, you're going to be then built. They're going to provide you a wallet on the back end, a blockchain wallet. You're not going to know it. They're going to provide you an NFT that identifies you, that obviously then goes in the wallet, but you're not going to know it on the front end. You're just going to know that you have a digital membership with Nike or with Amazon or whatever. And then loyalty points, you're going to get the loyalty points, and you're going to show up on the app as your little stars, but on the back, but they're going to be on chain as NFTs, as proof of purchase, right? Or as proof of receipt or proof of ownership. But I agree that the vernacular has to change in order for people to be comfortable with it, right? In order for them to be okay with having a digital membership versus having an NFT.
We all talk to each other.
I just wanted to say, there's been like in the past, there's been like things as well, like like people just rebrand things and then it just becomes okay. Like I don't know how to explain it, but like say for example, maybe like in history, like the British Empire became like the Commonwealth. They rebranded it as the Commonwealth, and then people accepted it a lot more. Oh, you're part of the Commonwealth. But at the end of the day, it's still just colonization of lands by Britain. But it just makes it sound better. And I think that, with NFTs, that it's a similar thing. It's like it's something that we need. I think that is something that works, especially from the point of like proving stuff on chain. I mean, if you've been in the space for 3 years, you've got to wonder like what keeps you coming back. There's something about NFTs that just you can't find anywhere else. And
Culture.
the culture, that culture is just insane. Like I find it a lot on like Ape Chain, and there's a lot of and that culture, like where else do you find that? I think that we live in such a lonely world that people want that like connection and that feeling of like being part of a community. And you can have that in Web3. You can find that in crypto, in NFTs, that sense of camaraderie, that sense of online friendship. Because I mean, where else do you kind of find these things? We've turned to a very lonely type of society where doom scrolling is a very lonely thing if you think about it. You're not interacting with people, you're
Right.
just taking in like content of like influencers. And I think that that's where there's been a big change. It's like we used to chat to each other on the internet, and that kind of has just fallen away. You know, oh yes, slide into your DMs and stuff, but it was very different. It was chat rooms and like you know, we kind of like what we're doing in Web3. This feels like early internet stuff. So uh, I'm so bullish on the community aspect of this. I think more than the tech is amazing, and the tech is like something that obviously you can sell to big corporations, and you can sell in terms of like the financial reason, but the sense the communities that Web3 forms, second to none. Honestly, like I battle to think of other communities that are so tightly knit and just such an amazing,
It's all about
amazing
that connection.
yeah, bro. Just
And it's
experience.
global too.
Yeah,
Like I mean, think about who's on this
That's
call right
nature.
now, right?
exactly.
We got
Yeah.
Vegas, we got Arizona, we got Florida, we have two people from Europe.
Yeah.
It definitely kind of changes.
And
It changes the landscape of things for
I mean,
sure. Hey, before I forget,
yes.
and then Tricky, you can jump in. Before I forget, guys, we're gonna do a little giveaway. We're curious what your price prediction is for Bitcoin as of Monday at 10 a.m. So, what do you think the price of Bitcoin is going to be on Monday at 10 a.m.? Drop it in the comments of this live. Let's see, drop it somewhere where we can see it. And whoever gets the closest on Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific, my time, 10 a.m. Pacific, we're going to send you $50 in USDC or something. But yeah, we want to see where you guys think Bitcoin's going to be on Monday. Sorry, Tricky, go ahead.
So I was saying about the different communities. We all are basically, you know, communities a lot of times were based on proximity, just, you know, who you interact with, right? But Web3 by nature is decentralized and everywhere. Because it has those, you know, those freedoms, and it's inexpensive, everyone's flocking to it from all these different communities. So now you're having communities reaching to other communities. So it's a lot easier to really find the people who you vibe with, because you'll take a couple friends from this community and a couple friends from this community, and very quickly it aggregates, and people are realizing the friendships they can make through this, and the communities are growing faster because of the friendships than even by the tech. The tech is actually lagging behind in some situations, but the communities are just growing faster than any other situation, right? I mean, that's the power of the internet, and everyone in Web3 automatically has the internet, right? We're all putting ourselves out there in the social media world, and I mean, we're not all doxxed; some are just blocks, but we're well known. You know, we're very sociable creatures nowadays with this tech. You know, it used to be the nerds were in the background, and now we're leading the forefront.
I like it. What
We
are we looking at?
all tech words so much, you know.
Crypto Stoner, what is that big freaking bubble in the middle there?
Bro, I don't know. I honestly, I'm gonna tell you guys, DYOR. I have no idea what this is.
Okay.
If you go on the month, it doesn't exist. So it came up this week. But because of how crypto bubbles work, it's the top 100 tokens currently, tokens and coins. Yeah, it's our bubble charts. This is the
month. This is the day or the week.
This is on the week. And that's why it's so green right now. Just showing everyone, obviously, you know, just what an overall positive market week it had really been. And then, you know, on the day where everything's still doing very well, honestly, Stellar XLM is coming back to life. And Stellar is one of my favorite legacies, to be honest. So
I still don't know what they do. Like I it's been around for forever, but I don't know like why.
I got a gang of Stellar. That makes me happy right there.
Do you really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yes.
I'm also bullish on Stellar.
I love that.
I can support this.
All right.
Heck yeah.
Because a few insights, because I'm in Spain right now, and Stellar, like I've been working with the United Nations and NGOs for a number of years. So Stellar basically is the only organization, the only Web3 foundation in the space working with entities like United Nations Development Fund, United Nations Climate Coalition, and they just hosted a side event at the high-level conference in Seville with the topic bridging financial gap. So they are going heavy into developing countries, pushing stable coins on Stellar, and doing amazing work, real world work. So I'm like really bullish on what they do because it really resonates with my aspirations and goals for this space, that we as an industry must have real world impact, especially in areas where there's no banking, people are unbanked, there is no access to economic tools, education, etc. So Stellar is doing all that work, and for me that is
And
super
that goes
exciting.
back.
Yeah, not sponsored content, by the way.
That goes back to our conversation earlier about companies or even countries or national global organizations picking a blockchain, right, and being very specific with the blockchain that they choose. So that's interesting. Wow, look at, there's a lot of green there.
Yeah, and Irina, I love that. You couldn't have said it any better of what XLM and Stellar is bringing to that blockchain ecosystem. That is one of the reasons. It's just like XRP for me. Of why I also hold XRP in that sense is it's that real world connection to, how do we use this with the systems we currently have in place and connect these to the rest of the world. So XLM, it's one that's been sleeping for a while. I think a lot of people lost faith, kind of like XRP when they were going through the SEC lawsuits there. But just like we saw XRP, which we see here, 511% on the year. It really just takes, the one of those puzzle pieces to come together, like when the SEC dropped the suits on XRP, of why this happened. So as soon as XLM and Stellar make those same, they've been working and building, and once those connections are fully not made, because they are made, but when everything is implemented, it's going to be a massive jump in their ecosystem as they fully come into life.
And Ethereum is down 3.6% on the year.
Ethereum's down. It's good because this was down 26% last week when we looked.
There you go.
It's a lot better.
Making progress. Making progress. Yeah. All right, guys, we are up against an hour. We like to keep these things tight to an hour. Guys, if you in the audience, if you have interesting projects or interesting people that you want us to talk to, please DM anybody on stage today, and we'll see if we can get them on a live to talk about their project or talk about what they're doing in the space, talk about innovation, just if you like in general have smart people like Irina that you want to see on the space or the live, whatever it is, please DM us so we can get more smart people up here and talk about more cool projects and things that are going on in this ecosystem. Because that's why I do these spaces, these lives, so I can learn from all of y'all and learn, really like get educated on the industry and crypto in general. So I love doing these. That's it for me, everybody. Have a great weekend. Let's go around the horn and say a few parting words and goodbye, and then we'll talk to everybody next week. Crypto, go ahead.
I was not close to my mute button, so I was leaning too far back in the chair on a Friday. No, thank you guys as always for being here. I know I was looking around earlier. We had a few hundred people tuning in between the channels. So it's always amazing just to have everyone here. And especially on a week like this, where it's just been really positive in the markets. We're seeing a lot of kind of that everyone took a breath of fresh air when we saw that all-time high hit this week after a lot of sideways and down trot. So, it's been really good to see the morale kind of flipping in the market. You guys know me. It's keep your stop losses tight. Make sure you have your profit margins in your trades. And also make sure you guys touch grass. Spirituality is a very important part of everything else I do in crypto. That means you have to remove yourself from the charts, remove yourself from the computer and the chair and the phone for, a day, 2 days, take that time to really let yourself just experience some fresh air, to recover that energy. I promise you guys, when it feels like you're taking a day off and you're missing, or you're not grinding hard enough, know that your efficiency will be so much stronger if you give yourself those times, those days to just be separated from everything. I know that a lot of the Web3 builders right now are feeling a lot of strain because they're on the meme side or the NFT side, or they're building utility and important things, but they're very small projects. So I've been telling those projects that I consult with to just, you know what, it's stressful, go step outside. Like, just go do that for a day or two. Let's come back and revisit everything, you know? So take that time, y'all, to just mental health, that spirit, give yourself some time to go outside and enjoy the weekend too.
Love it. Rick?
Yeah, bro. It's been a crazy day for me. Obviously, this morning we did the block party from like when I woke up until just before this live stream. So it's been a crazy one. Thank you to everyone that's tuned in today from this morning until now. You know, you guys are legends. Don't forget, like and retweet the live stream, whichever one you're watching. And then also write in the live stream chat what your prediction is for Bitcoin on Monday. Nick is giving away $50 USDC very kindly to someone who guesses and gets it close. We only have 2 guesses right now. One's Tricky and one's Pads.
Yeah,
And
but Pads, I need 6 digits, my friend. I need 121 and what? Like I need 121, 270. Like let's do all 6 digits in case there's we need a tiebreaker.
He means flat zeros. He means zeros across. If you
mean zeros across, that's cool too.
Steiner went with the 11111.
There you go.
Gotta get those angel numbers.
Rita, 120,000 even. Okay, I like it. All right, Rita, a few parting words.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been an amazing conversation. I would say, you know, to all our previous thoughts around, you know, building wealth and building generational wealth with Bitcoin, all that is great, but the biggest fortunes in the world are built by entrepreneurs, built by creators, by people who follow their dream and passion and purpose in life. So focus on creating, focus on building, focus on leaving your legacy. Then learn investment, learn the new financial tools to have your safety net, to have your you know, nice bit of savings for a good retirement or for whatever you want to use it for, pampering yourself. But creation is the purpose of life. If we don't create, we consume, as the favorite, everybody's favorite meme on Instagram says. So yeah, enjoy this positive moment. Touch grass. Have a great weekend. Have a great summer, and keep creating.
Love it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this has been awesome. Thanks, Serena. All right, Tricky. We real quick. Here are the here's what everyone's putting in the chat: 114,800, 121,000, 111,000, 111, 120,000, 127,365, 116,200, 119,200. Pads. Okay, thank you, Pads. 121,140. So we've got everything from 111 all the way up to what was that? 127. So we got quite the range there. All right, Tricky, a few parting words, and then we'll let everybody go.
Yeah, what if somebody, just wanted to say, what if somebody's watching this afterwards, because it is recorded, they just put it in the comments, right? In the comments of the live stream, because we do get a lot of people tuning in.
And you have to, all right, so we got to, I guess, set some rules then. So you have to have your final answer in by, let's say, Sunday at 10 p.m. Pacific. That way nobody's sneaking in at like 9:55 on Monday morning. So final answer has to be posted Sunday at 10 p.m. Pacific. So you can revise your answer if you want, I guess, up until then, right? Is that fair?
I mean, I would say, man, you know how if they start revising it, you know how complicated that's going to get.
All right, well, then we need to have a cutoff day or cutoff time.
Yeah.
It's Saturday.
Between now and Sunday at 10, that's fine. Like you said, post in the comments.
Let's say Saturday at 10.
Everyone gets one.
Let's give them 24 hours. Saturday at 10 p.m. Pacific.
So I'll call the end at Shiba Saturday tomorrow night.
Yes,
I'll say that's the end.
When
Shiba Saturday ends tomorrow night, that's when the whole thing.
And throw that out to them as well. And
I will.
And they'll be included in this.
And everyone needs to like and retweet the space in order to be eligible. You could get it spot on. You could get it 127365 like PJ. But if we see you
I'm
didn't
giving you
like and
$100.
retweet,
I'm doubling it if you get it spot on.
okay. But if even if so, if you haven't liked and retweeted, that's
Doesn't
it. You
count.
disqualified.
Null and
So like and retweet. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, Tricky. Party words, and then we'll let everybody go.
Yeah. Well, we basically heard it earlier, and it's never more true. You're only guaranteed now. You're guaranteed right now. You're not guaranteed anything else. Tomorrow, nothing. Right now, you are. So live it up. Enjoy your Friday, and stay safe out there, but stay positive.
Love it. All right, guys. Appreciate y'all. Have a great weekend.